Here we go, here we go, here we go. This is another very, very special episode of Change of Pace Sports with alternative views. I'm your host, MCKC. On this very, very, very special episode, we're going to be breaking down the 2022 NBA Draft top prospects. So I've broken it down to the top 15 prospects because it's going to basically give you the first half of the first round, basically cover the entire lottery picks, that will, most of the players that will be in the lottery on the first half of the first round. So what's going to make this show a little bit different than the way a lot of other people do it. I see a lot of other people that give you a mock draft and they just kind of tell you where these players should go, or they'll give you just a breakdown of a top list, of maybe a top ranking list of all the prospects in the draft. So what we're going to do here is we're going to give you the top 15. We're going to break down their games and then give you a pro comparison so you can understand what their game should be like as they move through the NBA without injuries or without any kind of drama considering. So without a further ado, we're going to get into our top 15 NBA draft prospects for the 2022 NBA draft. We're going to start off with number one. The number one prospect in this year's 2022 draft on my list, we have Duke power forward Paolo Banchero. Now, Paolo Banchero, to give you a little bit of background on him, he was the top-ranked player in high school. He was also the top-ranked player at 15 years old. So the fact that he would be possibly the top-ranked player in this draft, this just shows that he's been the top player in this class for a long time. So now I'll give you a little bit of Paolo Banchero. He's a power forward. He's 6'10" with a 7-foot wingspan, 250 pounds. He's 19 years old and he's a freshman coming out of Duke University. Okay. Now what makes Paolo special? He's basically a modern day four-man, as he can handle the ball. You can play through him. He's a physical force. His skills is actually his offensive versatility, his playmaking, and he's just a tough combo forward, meaning that he can play defense, and he's also an offensive player. Now, the players that are in the NBA or former legends in the NBA that are best comparison to who Paolo Banchero's game is, he's a combination of former Phoenix Suns power forward Boris Diaw and former NBA legend and Sacramento Kings superstar Chris Webber. Now, the reason that he's very close to Boris Diaw is his passing ability and his size. Boris Diaw was a 6'8", 250-pound forward, power forward that played primarily for the Phoenix Suns, but he was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks in 2003. Now, he was most known for, again, being a very good passer, being a very good offensive player, having high basketball IQ, being able to do a little bit of everything, and just being a big boy. So that's why we can compare Paolo to Boris Diaw. On the other side, Chris Webber. Chris Webber was the famous player from the Fab Five, was an elite player in his draft class, was the number one pick of the 1993 draft, was also a good passer, 3-level scorer. Paolo, again, from the time he was about 15, was compared to Chris Webber. His game is a lot like Chris Webber's, and that's a great comparison. But to give you a good understanding of what Paolo's game will be a combination of Boris Diaw and Chris Webber. So that goes for our number one ranking of the 2022 NBA draft prospects. Now let's go into number two. We have Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren is a big kid, very famous. Some people think he is the top player in this draft class. He's he's out of Gonzaga. So let's break him down a little bit. He's a center, 7 foot tall, 7'4" wingspan, 195 pounds. He's 20 years old, went to Gonzaga, is a freshman coming out of college. Now, his game now, to break him down a little bit, Chet is something of a unicorn. We've heard that before. He's 7 foot tall, he's very agile, he's very skinny and lanky, but he's an excellent shooter and he's a very talented shot blocker. He's a great rim protector. That would be what he would be in the NBA, and that would be his game. So it's not hard to make a comparison of him. His pro comparisons would be to Latvian star Kristaps Porzingis and former German star Sean Bradley. Now, quickly to give you who those players are, He's very, very close to Kristaps Porzingis, as Kristaps Porzingis was a 7'3" shooter, rim protector. Porzingis, before he got hurt and tore his ACL, he was the 4th pick in the 2015 draft for the New York Knicks. And Porzingis virtually did the exact same thing. He was a great shooter, can stretch the floor from anywhere in the court, but was also a great rim protector and could really block shots before Porzingis lost a step when he tore his ACL. Now, Chet Holmgren looks a lot like Porzingis, projects a lot Porzingis, but then the combination, whereas he's more of an elite shot blocking than Porzingis was. Porzingis was more of an offensive talent that could score from 3 levels than Chet can at this point. So the combination now becomes more of Shawn Bradley. So for some that don't know who Shawn Bradley is, he's one of the tallest players in NBA history. He's a former German American who was drafted in 1993, 2nd overall, right behind Chris Webber actually. He was 7'6", 275-pound center. What he's known for, he was an excellent shot blocker. Excellent shot blocker. He was Mr. Utah of 1989. He never quite lived up to his potential, as we haven't seen Porzingis quite live up to potential. But if Chet is to live up to his immense potential, he'll be a combination of Kristaps Porzingis and Shawn Bradley. Let's move on to number 3. Now, number 3 has, on a lot of lists, this player has the number 1 draft pick in this draft. A lot of people have him actually going number 1 to the Orlando Magic. And this player is Jabari Smith Jr. Now, Jabari Smith Jr. is a very, very talented player. He comes out of Auburn College. Now, let's give you some quicks on Jabari. He's a power forward. He's 6'10", has a 7-foot wingspan, 220 pounds. He's 19 years old, and he's a freshman coming out of Auburn this year. Now, many have him as the number 1 pick in this draft. What he stands out as is his shooting ability. He has a picture-perfect shooting form. He can shoot from anywhere in the court. He can pull it from deep. He can pull it from mid-range. And when he really gets it going, his shooting ability is par none. And the fact that he shoots it high above his head, he has an excellent shooting form. He's 6'10". He has the right size, length, and athleticism to just be a problem. Many people have compared him to Kevin Durant, whereas we know Kevin Durant is a 7-foot tall shooting guard that can shoot the ball from anywhere. That's the player that a lot of people have already projected to Jabari of the kind of player that he could be in the league. And that's why a lot of people have him going number 1 in the draft. The player that a lot of people have compared him to, and is an easy comparison because he's a lot like this player, is former Seattle's Supersonics draft pick, Rashard Lewis. Rashard Lewis, to give you some quick breakdown of who Rashard Lewis was. Rashard Lewis was a 6'10", 235-pound power forward. He was drafted 32nd overall in the 1998 draft, but he came straight out of high school. He was an NBA champion in 2013, and he also was a 2-time All-Star. He was a Mr. Basketball in 1998, a very, very talented player, one of the last to actually come out of high school. Now, Jabari Smith looks a lot like him on the court, shoots the ball a lot like Rashard, but the player that I compare more to Jabari Smith's game is actually former NBA star and superstar Glenn Rice. Now, Glenn Rice, many might not remember, he was more from the 90s. He was a 6'8", 228-pound small forward that was drafted 4th overall in the 1989 draft by the Miami Heat. He went on to be a 3-time All-Star. He was well known for his scoring ability, a big-time scorer, but known for his shooting ability. So I believe Jabari Smith's game will translate to a combination of All-Stars Glenn Rice and Rashard Lewis. Now, he might be the top pick in this draft, has immense potential. That's what he's going to look like when he gets into the NBA. Now, let's go into number 4 on my top 15 list. Number 4, I actually have ranked a little higher than a lot of people on their boards, AJ Griffin. Now, AJ Griffin is actually the son of a former NBA player and has grown up as a highly, highly ranked player in his draft class, or in his class in general. He's a very versatile player. Let's go ahead and break down quickly what AJ Griffin brings to the table. Now, Adrian Griffin Jr. is actually his name, but they call him AJ for short. Now, Adrian Griffin is a shooting guard, small forward. He's 6'6", with a 7-foot wingspan, 220 pounds. He's only 18 years old, and he's a freshman out of Duke. Had an up and down freshman year because he got hurt. But what he brings to the game, he's a great, great shooter. He has great form, can shoot the ball well from deep, almost something similar to like a Klay Thompson, the way he just has a great form and can shoot the ball very well. He has his skill set is he's very offensively versatile. He's a very rangy defender, and he has high basketball IQ. So the players that I compare him to is actually former elite three-point shooter, and we see him on NBA TV as a commentator these days, Dennis Scott, and former elite scorer Chuck Pearson. Now, to quickly go into who Dennis Scott was a 6'8", 229-pound small forward, the 4th overall pick in the 1990 draft to the Orlando Magic, and he formed a part of the first Big Three with the Orlando Magic with Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal in the early 90s and mid-1990s. He was a great shooter. His nickname was 3D, as he was known for shooting a lot of three-point shots. He was a great shooter, had great form, really know how to fill it up and get a lot of long-range shots in. That projects a lot like what AJ Griffin will be in the NBA. And now the combination would be with former NBA star Chuck Pearson. Chuck Pearson was actually known as, had a nickname as the Minuteman. He was also a 4th overall draft pick in the 1986 draft. He came out of Auburn. He was a 6'8", 240-pound small forward. He was also known for being a great shooter from long range, can light it up, can actually put points up on the board. So I believe Adrian Griffin, based on his game and based on what we've seen so far from him, he will be a combination of former small forward star Dennis Scott and small forward scoring star Chuck Pearson. That's number 4 on my list of top 15 2020 NBA prospects. Let's go right into number 5. Now, number 5 has become one of the more exciting players, one of the more notable players that has been getting a lot of publicity. So number 5 on my list, I have Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey, he's out of Purdue. A lot of people, he's been shooting up their boards. He's been compared to NBA superstar and young budding superstar Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. He looks like a lot like him in his stature, his size, his athleticism. He looks a lot like Ja Morant. But that's, I believe, as far as the comparison should go. He's very similar in his play style and his mentality, but he's not the same caliber or the same player of Ja Morant. But let's go right into who Jaden Ivey is. So, Jaden Ivey is a point guard because he can play off the ball. He's 6'4". He has a 6'7" wingspan, and he weighs 200 pounds. He's 20 years old. He comes out of Purdue College, and he's a sophomore. Now, Jaden Ivey is he's a elite level athlete. He's a incredible athlete. Some of the plays that he makes, jumping through the air, flying down the court, are just incredible, and it looks a lot like what we have seen from Ja Morant in the NBA. He explodes off the floor and explodes into the lane a lot like what we've seen of Ja Morant. His speed is incredible, and on defense, he's able to hound guys and jump passing lanes very well. So he's an open court phenom. So now, because of that, I believe that his pro comparison is a combination of actually former Golden State Warriors star Latrell Sprewell, who also played for the Knicks, and former triple-double star and MVP, current LA Laker point guard Russell Westbrook. Now, the reason I'm going to break it down, let's start off with Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell was a 6'5", 195-pound shooting guard that was a 24th overall pick in the 1992 draft out of Alabama. Now, what Latrell Sprewell was known for, he was a 4-time All-Star. He was known for being an incredible open court player that can jump lanes, and was known for just flying down the court, getting steals, and then finishing with ferocious dunks. A lot of what I see out of Jaden Ivey when he's actually jumping passing lanes and then flying down from dunks, he looks incredibly just like Latrell Sprewell. And that part of his game is more suited to be like Latrell Sprewell. Ja Morant doesn't jump passing lanes nearly as much as what Jaden Ivey does, and that is much more similar to what Latrell Sprewell And what Jaden Ivey is also known for, and what they speak highly on, is his incredible first step. Latrell Sprewell is known for having one of the great first steps where he can just size you up and blow by you with that first step. He didn't have a lot of dribbling moves, as Jaden Ivey doesn't have a lot of dribbling moves, but he can blow right past you. And that goes into the second player, who's a combination of, will be Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, very similar to Jaden Ivey in the sense where he's a playmaker, but Ja Morant is actually an elite passer, whereas Russell Westbrook is a good passer, but he's a good playmaker. Jaden Ivey, the same way, he's a good passer, and he's a good playmaker. So, and also with Jaden Ivey, he's a sophomore. He had a rough start as a freshman, didn't start all the games as a freshman, just like Russell Westbrook, who didn't start all his games as a freshman. So he projects very closely to being a combination of Latrell Sprewell and Russell Westbrook. And that's Jaden Ivey, number 5. Now moving into number 6 on my list, we have international star with Australian heritage, Dyson Daniels. Now, Dyson Daniels is a very intriguing prospect. I have a number 6 on my list. A lot of people have said that he's a very similar player to Chicago Bulls point guard and former Lakers draft pick Lonzo Ball. He does have a lot of things in common, like his size and his mentality. But let's break it down a little bit further. Now, Dyson Daniels is a shooting guard, small forward. He's 6'7", with a 6'10" wingspan. He's 195 pounds, 19 years old, and this last year he played with the G League Ignite team. Now, quickly about his game. Dyson Daniels is one of the premier international players in this draft class. He hails from Australia. He has elite tools in terms of size and mentality. Now, again, he's 6'7" and basically plays the guard position. That would be an elite size, and he's only 19 years old, so it's a chance that he can actually still grow to maybe 6'8", 6'9". Now, he's not a quick twitch athlete, but he has a lot of bounce, and he has quick feet and quick hands. Now, what really makes him stand out, he's a great on-ball defender and possibly the best perimeter defender in this entire draft. So now when I further break down Dyson Daniels, I feel like he's a combination of former LA Clippers lottery pick, point guard Shaun Livingston, and former Philadelphia 76ers high draft pick and rookie of the year, Ben Simmons. Now, it's odd that, like Ben Simmons, he hails out of Australia because they do have very similar mentalities. Now, the player that I feel like he more closely resembles is actually Shaun Livingston. Before Shaun Livingston tore his ACL, he was a highly regarded point guard out of the 2004 draft, where he was the 4th overall pick to the LA Clippers. Many people remember Shaun Livingston in his last 5 years in the NBA playing the backup role to Steph Curry with the championship Golden State Warriors. But at that point, he wasn't the same player at all. In his prime, what Shaun Livingston was a great passer, a good long-rangey defender, and just a good ball handler. Those traits translate very well to who Dyson Daniels is and what kind of player is. But the defensive mentality that Daniels actually brings to the game is where the combination comes with Ben Simmons. It resembles more Ben Simmons as a great on-ball defender with just great length, and that's able to actually hog the ball from basically 94 feet all the way up the court. So yes, I have Dyson Daniels having a high potential player, potentially a great two-way player like a Shaun Livingston and a Ben Simmons. Now let's go into number 7 on my top 15 prospects list. Number 7, we have star out of Iowa, sophomore power forward, Keegan Murray. Now, Keegan Murray, a lot of people have predicting him to be a top tier pick, a top 10 player in this draft. Some even have him going high in the top 5. To possibly even the Pistons at the 5 pick. Now, let's go in a little bit about who Keegan Murray is. Now, Keegan Murray is a 6'8" power forward with a 6'11" wingspan. He goes for 225 pounds. He's 21 years old, and he's a sophomore coming again out of Iowa College. Now, his game now breaks down as He's a very, very efficient player who projects as a high-end role player because he can do virtually everything well, and he's a floor spacer. He doesn't need the plays called for him to be an effective player on the court, and he hits a very efficient percentage from all levels, whether that's under the basket, whether that's mid-range, or whether that's even to the three-point line where he can actually hit that shot too. Now, he had a breakout season this last year with the Ohio State Hawkeyes, which allowed him to be a lottery pick this year. Now, what he's known for is his versatility. He's a very versatile offensive player. He's a very versatile player on the defensive end that shows a lot of smarts and awareness, similar to like an Al Horford that we've seen in the NBA Finals. Just a very high IQ basketball player, very versatile player, very smooth athlete. Now, the player or the pro comparisons that I have for Keegan, because of his style of game and his style of play, starts off with former Utah Jazz versatile player, all-star Andrea Kirilenko, and former 7-time champion and versatile wing player Robert Big Shot Horry. Now let's start off with Andrea Kirilenko. Andrea Kirilenko was a 6'9", 235-pound wing player that can play defense, that can play offense, gave you a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense. Was an all-star in 2004, made the all-defensive team, was a EuroLeague all-first player. His career averages in his best, when he was in his best at Utah, he would average something like 11 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. So he would give you a little bit of everything, is what Andrea Kirilenko would do, and that's what Keegan Murray projects to do. Now, the next player, who I feel is a combination of, is Robert Horry. Because again, Robert Horry was offensively, he was a very versatile player. He can score inside, he can post up a little, he can shoot from the mid-range, he can take it outside. Whatever was kind of needed, Robert Horry could bring. Robert Horry is a 6'10", 240-pound small forward, power forward that was the 11th pick in the first round of the 1992 draft. And was always just a versatile player that was always able to help any team that he was on, and was always a starter and possibly a fourth option on every team that he was on. I feel like Keegan Murray, that's what his game translates to in the NBA. It will be a combination of former All-Star Andrea Kirilenko and former 7-time NBA champion Robert Bob Horry. And that's the top 7 of my top 15 prospects in the 2020 NBA Draft. We're going to take a quick pause here just to let you know again, this is Change Your Pace Sports. If you have any comments, you have any disagreements, if you have you disagree or you agree with any of my rankings, you feel like they're right, if you agree with them, you know, Paolo Banchero being number 1, Chet Holmgren being number 2, Jabari Smith being number 3, Adrian Griffin being number 4, Jaden Ivey being number 5, Dyson Daniels being number 6, or even Keegan Murray being number 7, you'll leave that in the comment section. And if you got any other information, if you want to, just add to it what you think about some of these players or something I might have missed about them, throw that in the comment section. Again, I'm your man, MCKC, and this is, again, Change Your Pace Sports. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right back in. Again, this is a very, very special episode. We're going through the top 15 prospects in the 2022 NBA Draft. We're going into number 8 now as we go into the second half of this list. Now, for number 8, which is a highly, highly touted big man in this draft, he was top 3 in his class his entire life since he was basically 13 years old. And that is a center big man out of Memphis, Jalen Duren. Now, Jalen Duren actually was a big-time prospect. Stayed in Memphis, is from Memphis, to actually play under former NBA superstar Penny Hardaway, who's the coach over there at Memphis now. He was a big recruit for Penny Hardaway. So let's break down quickly who Jalen Duren is. He originally hails out of actually Philadelphia. He's a center. He goes at 6'10", but he has a 7'5" wingspan. He's 235 pounds. He's only 18 years old, one of the youngest players in the draft. He's a freshman coming out of Memphis University. Now, to quickly break down who Jalen Duren is, he's just a very, very powerful player and a very gifted athlete. He has a very explosive game. Is the way he gets off the floor and dunks the ball. It reminds some people of a young Shaq, a young Dwight Howard. The way he just goes up there and looks to rip the rim down. Again, a very explosive athlete. Now, he's a great rebounder already, and he's a tremendous shot blocker. Because of his length and his powerful build, he can basically protect the rim, leap up there and watch shots. And he can also on the other side, catch lobs for powerful dunks on alley-oops. So to give you a better understanding, because this alone might not give you a good understanding of who Jalen Durant really is. Now, a lot of people have just compared him to Dwight Howard. Now, his game does look a lot like Dwight Howard. He projects very similar to who Dwight Howard was. But if we do a little bit more of a dive, we dig a little deeper into what the game is and what he looked like in his whole career so far, going into what he was in high school, he projects more to be a combination of former NBA Defensive Player of the Year Tyson Chandler and former LA Laker All-Star center Andrew Bynum. Now again, Durant is very young, and if you look at his high school numbers, he projects very closely to former Chicago Bulls 2001 second overall pick Tyson Chandler. Now, Tyson Chandler was 7 foot tall, 235 pound center that was a high school star out of Chicago that eventually got drafted straight out of high school as a second overall pick in the 2001 draft. Now, he didn't do so well in Chicago, but he eventually found his strength and was an NBA champion with Dallas in 2011, was an All-Star in 2013, and was Defensive Player of the Year with the New York Knicks in 2012. Now, he projects very like Jalen Duren projects very closely to Tyson Chandler, but his potential, because he does show that he has a good touch, he can shoot the ball, he actually shows a good turnaround game, and Penny Hardaway was showing him a lot of higher level post-up game and post-up moves while he was in college, and that's where he looks more like a raw Andrew Bynum, who's one of the youngest players drafted ever in the NBA, and when he came out and he was drafted. So if we look into Andrew Bynum was the 10th overall pick in the 2005 draft. He was 17 years old when he actually got drafted, and still is one of the youngest players ever to play in the NBA. So Andrew Bynum was extremely raw, but he showed that he had the talent, and Jalen looks a lot like that in my opinion. A lot of what he does on the court looks a lot like that, and with Andrew Bynum being as young as he was, he really didn't play much his rookie year, only 46 games, averaged only 1.6 points, 7.3 minutes. But quickly in his second year, he averaged 7.8 points, played 82 games, only averaged 21 minutes. But then, like we say, he eventually became an All-Star in 2012, which would be about his 6th year. He became also when he was averaging 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks a game. And I feel like Jalen could be just like that, but it might take a couple years. It might take about 2 or 3 years to get to his full potential. But he has a perfect chance of becoming a combination of Tyson Chandler and Andrew Bynum. Now let's move into number 9 on my list of top 15 prospects in the 2022 NBA Draft. Now this is a very talented wing player. I might not get his name right, but hailing out of Arizona, you have shooting guard Bennedict Mathurin. Now, Bennedict is a shooting guard that has very good build, is a very good athlete. A lot of people have compared him to Knucklehead podcast star Quentin Richardson, who was a former LA Clippers star back in his day. So let's go into Bennedict a little bit more. He's a shooting guard, small forward, wing player. He's 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. He weighs in at 205 pounds. Now, Bennedict is 20 years old. He's coming out of a sophomore year of Arizona. Now, his game he's an incredible shooter. He's a great shooter. He can shoot off the ball. He can shoot coming off of screens. He can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot coming off of screens. He has a great form, and he has a flash of being a possible all-star player at the next level from his improvement from a freshman to a sophomore. He also has great athleticism. He's a very strong athlete. He's a great athlete. He shows a lot of great open court dunks. He can get up in there and dunk on people well. He shows great vertical leap. But like I said, he's also a great shooter. Great shooter. He shows a little bit of handles, but for the most part, he's a great athlete and a great shooter. So when I put that together and I look at the players in the league that he most resembles and a game will most likely look like on the next level, to me, Bennedict is a combination of NBA dunk contest winner and all-star Chicago Bulls shooting guard Zach LaVine, and again, former NBA shooter and our Knucklehead podcast star Quentin Richardson. So let's start off quickly with Quentin Richardson. Now, Quentin Richardson was a 6'6", 228-pound shooting guard, small forward. He came out of DePaul College in 2000, and he was a first-round pick, 18th overall to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, he played 13 years in the league. He was the 2005 three-point contest winner, and he was a 1998 McDonald's All-American. Now, he was also known for being able to post up and get inside the paint and use his strength. Bennedict is also a very strong player that can bully players underneath the paint. That's where we can see a very close resemblance of Quentin Richardson to Bennedict. But where I see a little bit more is with Zach LaVine. I see a lot of high-level dunks from Bennedict, and also see the ability to just shoot the ball from long range and shoot the ball off of great angles. That looks a lot more like Zach LaVine. If you break down Zach LaVine came out of UCLA in 2014, was the 13th overall pick to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He is a two-time NBA dunk contest winner in 2015 and 2016. He's a former Washington Mr. Basketball in 2013, and he's a two-time All-Star. I feel like Bennedict, if he reaches his full potential, will be a combination of Zach LaVine and Quentin Richardson. That was number 9. Let's move into number 10 as we crack into the top 10, 15 prospects in the 2022 NBA draft. For number 10, I have a guy that's not very high on a lot of people's lists, and I believe it's because he had got hurt and played through injury and didn't show it. But in the beginning of the season, he was predicted to be a top 10 player in this draft. He's probably the best point guard in this entire draft. I'm talking about Kentucky point guard Tyty Washington. Now, to give you a little bit about Tyty Washington, he comes out of Kentucky. He was known for one and dones. Tyty has been compared to former Kentucky point guard Brandon Knight. Let's go into a little bit further about who Tyty is. Now, Tyty is a point guard. He's 6'3" with a 6'9" wingspan, 185 pounds. He's 19 years old and was a freshman coming out of Kentucky. Now, let's break down his game a little bit. He was a former Creighton recruit, but after problems with the coach, he transferred to Kentucky. Then became a one and done. Now, he's a lightning quick point guard, plays an up-tempo. He's known for crafty handles and being able to have crafty scoring ability. He can get separation. He can shoot from all three levels. But he's a very, very crafty player. He lives in the mid-range, has a great floater package, has a great mid-range package. And he's a winning player who takes very much pride on defense. He has great ball skills, a very sharp player that can actually make great passes, make great decisions, and can get his shot off very skillfully. Now, because of that, and because of this game, he has a very unique game. It breaks down to very unique players. So I believe that Tyty Washington is a combination of former NBA point guard legendary Sam Cassell and former NBA All-Star Mike Bibby. Let's start off with Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell was a 6'3" point guard weighing at 185 pounds, the former 24th overall pick in the 1993 draft. He's also a 3-time NBA champion and a 2004 All-Star. Now, he won 2 championships with the Houston Rockets as their backup point guard, came off the bench from Kenny Smith and was their assassin. He's known for making clutch baskets and known for being a mid-range assassin. Now, what brings you Sam Cassell up is because Sam Cassell was a very, very sharp and skillful mid-range player. Tyty projects a lot like that, but he's more of a combination because he's very skillful in his shooting ability, and that's what comes in Mike Bibby. Mike Bibby was a 6'2", 200-pound point guard that was a second overall pick in the 1998 draft, hailing out of Arizona. Now, what make him gifted, he was a very talented shooter. He was a 1999 first team rookie, 1997 NCAA champion, 1996 Mr. Basketball USA, 1996 McDonald All-American. Bibby was a very talented scorer, very talented shooter. I feel like Tyty is a great combination of Sam Cassell and Mike Bibby. I think he'll be a much better player in the NBA than he showed so far in college because of what his skill set is. That's number 10. Moving into number 11, we have highly touted shooting guard, Jaden Hardy. Now we have Jaden Ivey, and we also have Jaden Hardy in this draft. Jaden Hardy didn't go the college route. He went with the G League Ignite and decided to skip going to college. Now he's a very, very talented shooting guard. Let's quickly break down a little bit more about Mr. Hardy. Mr. Hardy is a shooting guard. He measures out as 6'4" with a 6'10" wingspan, 185 pounds. Jaden is only 19 years old. Hold on a second. Yeah, he's only 19 years old. He played his ball last year with the G League Ignite. He projects at the next level to be a very, very talented player. Now, let's go in a little bit about his game now. Now, he's an excellent, excellent shot creator. He has a lot of step backs. He plays with the ball, knows how to really dance on his opponent, almost like a Kyrie Irving, Jamal Crawford, that type of player. He's very good at creating his own shot, and he can shoot the ball from anywhere. He can shoot it mid-range. He's a true 3-level scorer. He's a bucket getter. He actually compares very similar to last year Brooklyn Nets draft pick Cam Thomas. Now, he struggled initially, and that's why he's dropped from being a possible top 10 pick to some people say he's just a first-round talent now. But make no mistake about it, he's an excellent shot creator, and at the next level has a chance to easily average 20 points a game in the mold of a Jamal Crawford. And as we're saying that, his pro comparisons and his combination of former Sixth Man of the Year NBA star Jamal Crawford and former NBA All-Star and current NBA All-Star Washington Wizards shooting guard Bradley Beal. He projects a lot like Jamal Crawford because his ability to get shots off, his creative shot creation ability, and his offensive bucket getting. And because of his step back package and his size, he projects a lot like Bradley Beal. That would be the combination that we have for Jaden Hardy. Now we go into number 12. Now this is a very polarizing player, a very unique player, very talented player, very highly touted player. At number 12, I have Shaedon Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe was projected as a top 5 player, but didn't play at all last year. He had injuries and decided not to play at Kentucky last year. Now, because of that, some people are not sure where he will land in this draft. Is he still a top 5 player? Is he a top 10 player? Or will he just be a first-round draft pick? So let's break down a little bit of what Shaedon Sharpe's game is. He's a shooting guard, small forward. He's 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan at 200 pounds. He's only 19 years old. Came out of Kentucky University as a freshman and one and done. But again, didn't play last year because of injury. He sat out virtually last year. Make no mistake about it, Sharpe is an elite and a big-time athlete. Big athlete that stands out, flies up and down the court, and can get up in the air with the best of them. He has highlight reel dunking ability, highlight reel skills. He has all the tools that you would want from a wing player or a shooting guard, and that's why me projected him as the top player in this draft at one point. Some people saw him as the number 1 player in this entire class at one point. So now to quickly break down his game, he's very similar to former NBA star, former Sixth Man of the Year, J.R. Smith, and former dunk contest participant, Gerald Green. Now, I'll quickly give you a breakdown of those players so you can understand closer to who they are. J.R. Smith came out of high school in 2004. Was it 2018? I'm sorry, 18th overall draft pick in the 2004 draft to the New Orleans Hornets. Came straight out of high school in New Jersey. He was a 6'6", 220-pound player. He was a 2013 Sixth Man of the Year. He was a two-time NBA champion with the Cleveland. He was a McDonald's All-American and a McDonald's co-MVP. J.R. Smith competed in dunk contests. He was known for having a lot of step backs, and that Shaedon Sharpe projects a lot like. If you see his game, he has a lot of step backs, a lot of creative ways to get his shot off. And we saw that a lot with J.R. Smith. He shoots the ball, and his way of getting to his shot is a lot like J.R. Smith, but his athleticism and his physical mold looks a lot like Gerald Green. So I project him as a combination of former stars in NBA J.R. Smith and Gerald Green. Now let's move into number 13. He's one of the best international prospects in this entire draft. We have Ousmane Dieng. He he's a French star. He played his last year in the NBL in Australia with the New Zealand Breakers. He's only 19 years old. He projects to be a excellent player. He has high potential. Now let's go in a little bit more about his game now. Dang is a small forward, 6'9", with a 7-foot tall wingspan, 185 pounds. He hails out of France. He's only 19 years old. Now let's go into a little bit about his game. Now, he's a legit point forward. He's a great ball handler, and he's a playmaker and a passer. He's a creative big wing player that can handle primarily ball handling responsibilities. Now, he's not the best shooter, but he's an extremely versatile offensive player. Has an excellent mid-range game where he can do a good job finding and getting his shot off. Now, his outside shot, he hasn't hit at a strong clip, but it looks good and he has a strong form. Now, where he actually strong is, he has great tools. He's a lean athlete and can actually guard 1 through 4. He can lock up players well. He has great defensive ability. So with him, he's a versatile player that shows point forward skills, versatility on both the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. Now, who he actually compares most to is former German all-star that played with the Seattle Supersonics in the 90s, Detlef Schrempf, and he's a combination of former Israel star that came out a couple years ago that plays with the Washington Wizards right now, Jaden Ivey. Now, to bring you about Detlef Schrempf, he's a former 3-time All-Star and former Sixth Man of the Year. He's a 6'10", 235-pound small forward, power forward. Was the 8th overall pick in the 1985 draft by the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of people remember him playing with the Seattle Sonics in the 90s. He was a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Sixth Man of the Year, former German Player of the Year in 1992. Now, in his NBA year, he again was a good passer. He was a solid wing player. His best years, he would have put up numbers like 19. One of his better years would have been 1992 to Indiana Pacers. Averaged 19 points, 6 assists, 1 steal, 9.5 rebounds. Shot 80% from the free throw line, 47% from the field. Could shoot from the 3-point line. Was a good passer. We can also play make and was something of a point forward. Now, he closely resembles a more modern player that was drafted just a couple years ago and one of the better international players in that draft. 6'9", 210-pound of the 2020 draft, 9th overall by the Washington Wizards, Jaden Ivey. He was a 3-time Israel champion, 2020 Israel League MVP before he was drafted in 2020 himself. Now, in the league so far, he hasn't actually made his name so far. In Washington, he's only played 2 years, but he's slowly starting to improve. Now, Ousmane Dieng resembles them most, and I believe his NBA career will be a combination of pro players Detlef Schrempf and Jaden Ivey. Now let's move into number 14 as we continue here. For number 14, we have Wisconsin star Johnny Davis. Now, Johnny Davis is a very good scorer. He's a very good player and made a name for himself, especially over the last season at Wisconsin, where he led them very well. So, Johnny Davis, let's quickly go into who he is. Now, Johnny Davis is a true shooting guard, wings player. He's 6'5", with a 6'8" wingspan, 195 pounds. He's a 20-year-old sophomore, again coming out of Wisconsin University. Now, his game style is Johnny Davis is a hard-nosed player that can kind of do it all in the court. But he's a very, very talented scorer and a very crafty scorer. He can score from all three levels. He can shoot from long range, but he can get to the rim also. He's not an elite athlete, but he's a very tough player and he's a very good athlete. He's a very crafty player that can score in a numerous ways of doing it. He projects a very complimentary player, but a very talented player, a very sharp player. Now, the pro comparisons I have for him will be very unique. And this will actually break down what his game is for you guys so you can understand exactly what you expect to see from him at the next level. Now, I believe his game will be a combination of former NBA shooting guard star Jimmy Jackson and former Portland Trailblazers star Brandon Roy. Now, let's start off with Jimmy Jackson. Jimmy Jackson was a former 6'6", 220-pound shooting guard that was the 4th overall draft pick of 1992 after being a star at Ohio State University in 89 through 1992. Played for the Dallas Mavericks his first 5 years. He was a Mr. Ohio basketball consensus first team All-American. Now, when he got to the league, Jimmy Jackson was known for averaging around 20 points. He was a very good scorer. He could score in many different ways. He was a 3-level scorer, could shoot from the 3, could post up, and had a mid-range game. Now, the combination would also be with Brandon Roy, who was also known as Mr. Natural. He was a very crafty player. Played his own space. He was a 6'6", 211-pound shooting guard that was 6th overall draft pick in the 2006 draft to the Portland Trailblazers. Played at Washington University. Brandon Roy was a 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA player, 2007 Rookie of the Year. Now, Johnny Davis projects very closely to these two players, as again, he's basically a 6'6" guard that plays under his own pace, very crafty player, can do a little bit of all, can pass a little bit, can score a little bit, and is just a very crafty player that plays at his own pace, very tough player, like Jimmy Jackson and Brandon Roy. Now, number 15 and the last player of my top 15 prospects for the 2022 NBA draft will be a player out of Baylor, forward Jeremy Sochan. Jeremy Sochan. Now, Jeremy Sochan is a very, very good player, very good prospect. Projects to be more of a role player, though. Now, many see that you'll still see him in the lottery, being drafted around the top 10, maybe 11, 12, somewhere in that range. But he is a top 15 player in this draft. Make no mistake about it. So let's go into who Jeremy is a little bit more. Jeremy's actually out of England. He's an international player. He's a power forward at 6'9", 7-foot wingspan, 230 pounds. Now, he's only 19 years old. He's a freshman out of Baylor. Now, let's go into a little bit about his game. Now, Jeremy is a smooth, multi-talented combo forward. He's a multi-talented, versatile defender. He's a very good team player. Now, what makes him a lottery player is on the defensive end, he can virtually guard 1 through 5. He really shines on that side, can really switch in this day and age in game. And on the offensive end, he just swings the ball and he just makes himself not a problem. Helps the offense and is a versatile offensive player. So because of that, his skill set, to me, most resembles former NBA veteran and longtime NBA player Jared Jeffries. Now, Jared Jeffries was a highly touted player out of Indiana. Was, I believe, a He was a Mr. Indiana basketball in 2000, Gatorade Player of the Year in 2000. He was a first-round pick, 11th overall in 2002 by the Washington Wizards after he had an established career at Indiana University. Now, he was a 6'11" versatile player, and that's to me who Jeremy Sochan projects to be. But he's a combination of Jerry Jeffries and former Cleveland Cavaliers power forward and Brazilian star Anderson Varejao, international and Euro League star Anderson Varejao. Now, Anderson Varejao was more of a power forward center, more of a big man. He was 6'11", 260 pounds, was drafted 30th overall in the second round by the Orlando Magic, who played most of his ball with the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James, many people remember him before. Now, he's a two-time Brazilian basketball champion. He's made it to the All Defensive Second Team in the NBA in 2010. So he was a very versatile defensive player also, and just a good team player on the offensive end. So to me, Jeremy Sochan projects to be a great combination of Jared Jeffries and Anderson Varejao. And that for you guys is my top 15 prospect breakdown list. So I give you their games, kind of what you can expect them to be in the NBA, and where do they rank in terms of the best actual basketball prospects in this draft. It gives you an idea if one of your teams are able to draft one of these players today, what you can expect them to be, what you can expect them to be in the NBA when they actually can reach their full potential. So again, any comments, please leave them in the comment section. If you actually watched all the way through to see all 15 draft picks, congratulations. And again, it's your host, MCKC. It's a Change of Pace Sports with Alternative View. If you like this, please subscribe. And if you like this video, hit that like button. I'll be back again with more breakdowns, more basketball, more sports, more educated and objective breakdowns. Peace.